Welcome to Let Freedom Ring. Per usual, we're keeping the coward out, Soapy pre-op. I do want to address one thing before we get into anything. Speaking of cowards, Brian Kelly, leaving Notre Dame for LSU was one of the most coward moves I've ever seen in sports history. Brian Kelly, after 11 years of the Notre Dame fan base supporting you, to do that, and then try to take the coaching staff. You really are a snake in the grass, but we're going to move on from that. And Brian Kelly, I'm not even going to go into any more of that because there's other things I want to say. But my guest this week, Mark Sloan. Mark, welcome to the show. Great to have you. Let's get to know you a little bit. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Originally from Newport, Vermont. Born there, lived there for a couple of years. My dad got relocated to Maryland. So we moved to Fort Meade Army Base in Maryland for like 5 years. When he got relocated to Louisiana, went back to Vermont to live with my grandparents from 5th grade on until I went to college. So pretty much Newport, except for the couple of years in Maryland.
Nice. Now, where are you now?
Manchester.
Manchester.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you kind of lived in all different places.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice. Now, we used to do this on the show. We'd say, what's one thing everybody should know about you? But what's 3 things that everybody should know about you?
Yeah, that's tough. Mostly, like a lot of people know, I play both hockey and softball. I umpire. Other than that, it's more or less, I work for Cisco, driving a tractor trailer. So my days some days can be short, some days can be long, and then you go to umpire or softball or whatever afterwards. And besides that, it's more or less try to do the family stuff. I have 2 dogs, an Old English and a little Yipper Chihuahua Dachshund mix that, like to bark a lot.
Nice. And then is it tough sometimes to get out of work and know that you because umpiring, it's kind of like, oh, I got to go work kind of again, or does it feel like work?
Some days it feels like work, some days it doesn't. It's tough because when you go from what I do, driving a tractor trailer, delivering product and everything else, and then you go to umpire, you pretty much know a lot of the people when you go to the leagues to umpire. So it's not really, it doesn't feel like a job, but you kind of got to treat it like a job. Yeah. Because if you don't treat it like a job and you start joking around the whole time, like it's all your buddies or whatever, and not doing what you're supposed to, there can be issues where, some people will give you a hard time. They don't think you're being serious, or they're going to want to argue stuff with you, but you kind of overall, in a sense, have to treat it like a job because you're getting paid to do it, for one. You got to make sure you're being correct in a lot of the stuff you do, and like everybody knows, you're going to make a mistake here or there, but the best thing I've learned from umpiring is if you make a mistake, you have to own it, but try not to basically say, in the middle of a game, say, hey, I screwed up. Wait till the game's done, and then if somebody wants to say, well, do you think you missed that one, then you can either say yes or no. My personal thing, when I've umpired in Nashville and stuff like that, if I feel I missed something, I'll tell you guys afterwards, be like, hey, I think I missed one, it's my fault. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again next time. So.
And everybody's human, so sometimes when people get a little ridiculous, you're like, okay, come on. Sticking with the theme of the show, which is Let Freedom Ring, we ask every guest this, and every guest has a different opinion or take on this, but what does it mean to you to be an American?
Well, to me, we figure, I grew up, like I said, in northern Vermont, on the border of Canada. Canada was only 2.5 miles away from me. So when I was growing up, for high school hockey and junior hockey, our home rink was in Canada. So you kind of saw the difference. So you were driving across the border just so I could play, games and high school hockey and everything else. So to me, even growing up with my grandparents, it's the hardworking people, pretty much a lot of people argue it, but I think the hardworking people in this country are the ones that run it, not the people that just sit in an office and type on a computer. Granted, yeah, they have a job and everything else, but it's, for what I do, driving a truck to supply people so that way somebody else can do their necessarily work to contribute down the line to provide for everybody. If you don't have everybody working together, it's going to be chaos. You look at some of the other countries and, not going to pick specific ones, but you don't have you have like different groups of people working against each other, to where nothing ever gets solved, or nothing is driven to like make the country better.
I like that answer, because that's more or less everybody has a role to keep
Yeah.
the society moving. And you, as an American, you take your role. And no, I like that a lot. Now being right on the border, so you had a lot of hockey games in Canada.
Yeah.
So like, what's that like cross, is because this is a different time. Now you got to have a passport and everything.
Yeah.
Was it easy doing that all the time, or was there,
Well, when I was growing up, you didn't need a passport.
Yeah.
So basically, you drove up to the border, they checked your license. If they wanted to look at your hockey bag to make sure you had nothing in it, then they did. But like, for a lot of us, while I was all through high school, you're going across every single day for hockey practice or games. They didn't really stop you or bother you.
Yeah.
And then like when you're coming back, if you knew the people or they recognize you all the time, they'll just wave to you and tell you to keep going.
Okay, so it's kind of like the same people working.
Yeah, the same people working there all the time, and you get to know them and everything else. And then when I was playing juniors, it was pretty much the same ways. I played juniors in Quaticook, so like it was a 40-minute ride. So some days I would stay up there, some days I wouldn't, but it wasn't like a big deal going back and forth. Now you try to go back and forth, you need a passport, you need your shot records, you need,
every little thing.
every little thing you need just to go across.
Yeah.
And the only big thing was, like back then, is if you had any type of criminal record, you might as well forget about it.
Yeah.
But there used to be all the side streets where you could watch people walk down a side street or drive down a side street, and if you got caught, then you get caught. But a lot of people used to do it, so that was their only way
so
to
you
get
could get
across.
through without.
Yeah, there was side streets where you could get through.
Okay.
In different ways, but everybody used to think there's no cameras, but yet you go through a side street, and then when you're coming back across, it'll be like, how'd you get across? Oh, I went through here. And they're like, no, this license plate number says you went through this road.
Oh, wow. That's pretty, that's, because I've always been curious. We used to go to a softball tournament in Canada, and every time I never like worried too much going in. Like, I'm like, all right, they don't let me in or whatever. I don't care. It's always coming back that I'm like, man, I hope the U.S. doesn't try to pull something on me. But I always wondered, like, because we've had people, not going to use names, that want to play in that tournament that have, because you can't get into Canada with a DWI.
No.
And it's like, could we get them over some other way? But it's probably not worth the risk.
No, I always found if you go up the highway, if you go up the interstate, they were a lot more strict than they were going through the back roads.
Okay.
So like for me, where I grew up in Newport, you could either go the highway or you could go through the Derby line one. But the rink for us was right across the Derby line one. Like you would go through the Derby line, go half a mile up, take a right, and the rink's right there. Nice. The only thing we used to do in high school was wait till the coach left, because there was a bar that was right outside the rink there. Half of us would go to that right after the games on a weekend were done. So
that's pretty awesome. And just one other question about that: do you feel like playing against Canadians made you a better hockey player overall? Like, I know, like, they love hockey. We do love hockey in the United States, but probably not the level the Canadians do. Think playing against them made you better?
I'll put it this way: my first couple games playing juniors in Quaticook, if they know you're American, you're under the spotlight right away.
Oh, really?
And with me being a goalie, it's a little bit more different, because you're always going to have those guys that are out to get you no matter what.
Yeah.
At least it was when I was growing up. But you're also going back, where I'm 44 now, you're going back 25 years ago, when I played a year in Quaticook before going to college.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure it hasn't
No,
changed.
it probably hasn't, but it could be a little bit different now. But you go back to those days, like even when we would, like for high school, we would play the Stansted College team, which Stansted College is high school, because theirs is different. Like where we call it college university, their college is high school, and then you have universities like if we went to college. But we would play against them, and they would take it personal that we were playing in their rink to play all our practices and our games and everything else. And it was even worse when they had because when I was in high school, they had Guy Lafleur's kid playing for him. So, So it was more or less they felt insulted that we were playing against them there. So it was always a point to try to beat us or however when we played them.
It is very personal. As much as I embrace my French Canadian heritage, even just going to play softball there, they want to beat the Americans. Doesn't matter what it is. You're coming over the border, I did. It never happened, but I threw out the invitation to a bunch of the Canadians. Said, "Why don't you guys come to Manchester and Nashua? Maybe we could have a game there on our turf sometime." But no, that's awesome stuff. I didn't know that about you. That's awesome.
Well, it's like you're saying that, have them come down. It's just like when they go to Florida for Worlds.
Yeah.
It's a big difference for them to go down there from what they're used to playing back home, too.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've played against some of them down in Florida, and it's, they don't take it as personal because they're playing down here.
Yeah.
But you can tell they're not too happy. They come down here, and if they get their ass handed to them, and they're like, what's going on? So
I will say that, like you said, the French Canadians in Quebec are a little bit different than the rest. Because I think we went down, we played a team maybe out of Vancouver, and there's, "Hey, how you doing? No, we lost. Okay." French Canadians are not like that.
No.
They're out for blood. Doesn't matter what the sport is. All right. Well, let's talk about it a little bit because you're very involved in softball as a player, as an umpire. So just kind of want to get a little background on all that. How did you get involved with softball?
When I got done playing hockey and stuff, I was living in Derry. So honestly, I just happened to meet a couple of guys out at D'Angelo's, and I was like, "Hey, is there any way to get in, any way to get into a league or whatever?" And they're like, "Yeah, come play with us in Derry." And that's when the Derry Men's League used to be real big.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started playing league ball in 2003. Started playing tournaments in 2003 with Ronnie Coombs and Timmy Fail and on Brian Circle Getty.
Okay.
That's when I started playing tournaments, and I figure, 20 years later, or almost 20 years later, still playing tournaments in league ball. So,
oh, that's awesome. So you just kind of ran into these guys at D'Angelo's? Or
it just happened that they were there and they had uniforms on, I was looking to do something because it was starting the beginning of the summer, and I was done playing hockeys. I was playing a little minor hockey out west, and when I moved back to the area and started working at it used to be Great State Beverages, which is bought out by NHD in Bellavance.
Oh, yep.
I was working there. I was like, hey, I'm trying to find a league or something to play in because hockey's easy to find. The softball leagues are different or what's competitive and, stuff like that. So try to make it fun.
Nice. So I would take it, so you started in 2003 then?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, have you ever, just sticking on the hockey a little bit, because do you play in any of those leagues that play at like 6 o'clock in the morning? Have you ever played in any of those?
Yeah, I did for a little while when I was working nights.
No, really?
In Conway.
What is that like, waking up that early? Because I think the games start at like 6 o'clock, right?
Yeah, but for me, it's not waking up. When I used to work nights,
when
I was at Great State Beverages, I used to work nights. So I would go in at 6 o'clock at night and set up tractor trailers and paperwork because I used to be the manager of nights.
Yeah.
Get out of work at 5 in the morning, drive to Nashua, play at 6 in the morning, and then go home afterwards. So, if you think about it,
it's like your evening.
Yeah. If you're getting up and going to work at 6 in the morning, and then you go play a game at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, it's the same thing, just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Different time slot.
Because when I used to work at J Muse right here, and the guidance counselor is Matt Bigelow. Shout out to Bigelow. He used to play at like, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, then come to work and be a guidance counselor. And I was like, dude, how are you doing this? Like, he's from, where is he from? I think he's from the Buffalo area, and he's just always been a big hockey guy. So, what's the most favorite season you've ever had playing softball?
I would say probably 2012. I played with Ryan Mayotte and Steve Pilcher, Timmy Fail, and some of those guys. And the whole year we kind of struggled as a team for Newcoat, getting guys to show up and not just have your bare 10, because either guys getting hurt or family commitment or whatever. And then when we went away for Worlds, we ended up finishing second out of 208 teams.
I wasn't even aware of how big softball was at that point.
Yeah, and then in 2012 we finished second. We just happened to have a good weekend. Everybody was healthy, everybody was having fun. We finished second out of 208. We were actually 7-0 the winter bracket final.
Oh, wow.
We lost by 2, and then we beat a Rhode Island team to go back to the finals in the loser bracket. Ended up losing to a very good Virginia team.
I mean, because I've had Ryan on the show, and I didn't realize how big, like, even country-wise, how big softball is in southern New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Like, we really do love it, and it seems to be growing more and more and more.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you got to figure Nashua has 2 men's league and a co-ed league, and they split Manchester with a women's league, so you figure there's 4. You have a Londonderry women's, a Londonderry men's, Londonderry co-ed. Pelham runs a men's during the summer. They run a men's and a co-ed in the fall. Merrimack has men's and co-ed.
Yeah.
And Laconia has a co-ed. Milford has a co-ed. I think that's pretty well. And then you have like the Seacoast. You have Dover has a men's league. Rochester has a men's league. Newington does. So it's kind of like, the southern half. You go up north, it's more dwindled down, and they do a lot of like the wood bat and the charity tournaments and stuff like that. But you still have a good variation for a lot of people to play.
It's crazy how it really is big in this area. It's big in New England. And when we went to Canaan this year, it was my first time going, and we're playing these teams from up north because I think U-Trip is really big in southern New Hampshire.
Yeah.
But you start playing these guys and girls, I should say, that play wood bat all the time, and what a difference, that they could play.
Well, more northern you go, it's more ASA still. They don't have a lot of the U-Trip up there. They're still old school with like the ASA up there, because like when I played in high school with one of my uncles, it was all ASA. I had no clue there was U-Trip until I came back to live in Derry, Manchester area with an aunt, when I first found the league.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you said, Canaan's a different story all by itself.
You
get 44 teams.
And you're doing the umpiring.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm sorry. The players are doing the umpiring.
Which is good and bad, because with that up there, which you saw firsthand this year, you have the people that have been drinking all day because nobody enforces any policies up there for drinking. You'll have people up there that either don't want to argue with somebody and they're not going to call anything, or they're half in the bag and they're half in the bag and they can't make a call anyway.
Yeah. I mean, that was the first time I've been there. It seems like everybody, there's no trophy or anything. I think they gave them a bracket or something.
Well, no, you get
maybe get money
for first place. I think you get your entry. Because 2 years ago we won it, and then we finished second. The year before, or no, 3 years ago we won it. 2 years ago we finished second. So they didn't have it last year. So we got the entry fee back. For second place, you get half your entry fee. And then,
See, I don't even care. Yeah. I like to win. Like, I like to be honest, when I win, I just like to have that picture with my teammates. Like, I don't care about the money, but.
No, that wasn't the thing with us. And you got to figure, like, the team that Ryan and I take up, it's pretty much all of us that have been playing together for like 6-7 years. Because I played in that tournament years ago, before with some my high school buddies and stuff like that. I was playing in that for a long time. And then I got Ryan to go up and play in it, and he's like, "Oh, this is fun." So we just put together a team and had pretty much the same team the past 6-7 years. So.
Yeah, I had a blast up there. We used to go to Canada on Labor Day weekend. Now can't really do that. I was going to ask too, how did New Power? That's the team I play on. New Coat. How did that all come together? Where is New, like that's a auto body shop?
Yeah.
Is that in Merrimack or?
It wasn't Hooksett. It was Ryan's father used to own it.
Okay, so that's how. Okay, that makes sense. I'd always been, and I didn't even ask about that when I had him on the show. That makes sense.
No,
okay.
Ryan's father, before he passed away, he had it, and then Ryan's just kept it going. So.
Got it. Okay, so that is Ryan's business now.
Yeah.
What's your favorite and least favorite part of playing?
Probably favorite part of playing would be if you're playing with all your buddies, you're going to have a good time no matter what. Whether you're struggling or not, they're all going to joke around with you and everything else. And, it's not like you're sitting there playing with strangers and you have so much pressure on yourself. I'd say the worst part is even though you're playing with your buddies, if you're not playing well, you're going to be the hardest on yourself no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's with any sport, I think, with any type of job or anything you have going on. If you're struggling with something, you're the hardest person on yourself. So I would say that's probably the worst part. But the only thing you can do is try to work on those things to get it better, even though, it's like my grandmother used to say, you're your toughest critic. No matter what you're doing, you're going to be your toughest critic. Whether you're doing something really well, you're still going to critique yourself on what you can do better. And if you're doing really terrible, you're going to do the same thing.
No,
so
I agree with that.
It's got its balances.
I've never gotten mad at a teammate, maybe once or twice, just like it does happen sometimes. So I guess I want to take that back. I have, but not many times. But usually it's like, at one point when I came back after rotator cuff surgery, and I just couldn't do what I used to do until I got better. And I came back and I just smashed the trash can. Everybody's like, calm down. Like, I'm like, it's not about that. It's about me. Just leave me alone. It's a tough thing. Just want to talk about your umpiring career a little bit here. How did you become an umpire?
Well, when I first started playing in Derry, I played co-ed there and played men's. After a couple of years, they were looking for people to umpire, so I started doing it a little bit off and on, and then the past 5-6 years, just started doing it more and more. As it kind of fits in. It's play a couple nights a week, umpire a couple nights, and then you have a couple nights to do whatever. Like you said, it's almost like a second job.
Yeah.
You don't have to go punch in at a clock or whatever. It's like you go do 2 or 3 games or 1 game a night if that's what you have. Or unless you do a tournament on the weekend where you're there for the day and then you go home. I kind of like it a little bit better. Like we're saying, it's not like you go punch in a clock. You do have to deal with people because of the players or anything else, but if you treat it like a job, it's like you're there. And the one thing with being an umpire is the less you're heard, the better off you are.
Yeah.
Just make your calls and everything else. If somebody wants to joke around with you a little bit, like some guys will talk to you and everything else. Yeah, talk with them a little bit, but I try not to go out of my way to talk to people on stuff like that unless somebody asks a question or if somebody's joking around or if it's in between innings and somebody say, hey, what's going on, blah, 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 then, you can talk to them in between innings. But when your innings going on, it's better off the less you're heard unless you're making a ball or a strike call or out or safe. That way you don't have as many people wondering whether you're correct, you're wrong, or second guessing everything you're doing. So.
Yeah, I think you have a good demeanor about it. I've never seen you get upset with people being pains or anything. Just keep it even keel, which is I think that's what it needs to be. It's got to be tough when you first start though. Like umpiring, if you've never, I used to umpire, Cal Ripken when I was a kid, and when I first started, oh man, I was a lot younger, but I was so nervous. And then after I did it a few times, I was like, all right, I'm actually in charge here. So I don't have to take this from these parents, Does it just get easier as the more you do it?
Well, I think the toughest thing, when you do men's softball or women's softball or co-ed softball, the toughest part about it is getting your strike zone down.
Yeah.
Because the bases are kind of simple. As long as you're moving out from behind the plate so you can see second base, third base, or first if you need to, that's one of the basics. But the toughest part, I think, like you'll agree, when you did Cal Ripken ball, is you need to figure out your strike zone and just stay consistent with it.
Yeah.
Because if you start changing it, you're going to have people, asking you, why is that a strike? That's not a strike. Or you just called this one a strike. How come that one is? But if you get yourself in a consistent strike zone, I think that's the toughest part.
Yeah, I did have one time where I was 16 or 15. I was umpiring in Nashua West, and it was the minors, minor leagues.
Yeah, and your 11 and 12-year-olds. And then
it's even 9, 10, and one team they were getting killed. I mean, we're talking 30-plus runs, and they had no time limit in the game. And I didn't know what to do, and I started just calling ridiculous pitches strikes. I'm like, we're never going to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I had a parent oh my God, this is ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. I turn around and I go, because I'm just a kid at the time. I'm like, and in my head I go, do the parents want to be here all day? And like, how bad do we want to embarrass this other team? You're up by 30 runs. Like, I stopped umpiring for Nashville West after that. I just want, and it doesn't even exist anymore. Now Cal Rippion's just one league, which is unfortunate. It means baseball in Nashville is dying, but neither here nor there. What's it like working with Dave Coulis and Ryan Mayotte?
Oh, let's see. It's like, I think, working with anybody. You have your ups and downs because, where Ryan has so much to keep track of, and trying to help him do with leagues and tournaments and umpires. He's got the overall southern half of the state to control with when there's a problem. Dave has more or less just the umpires. So where I umpire too, it's a little bit easier if there's a problem. They can't get a hold of him, they'll call me and we figure it out. And and then him and I will talk about it afterwards. It's the same thing with Ryan, because if there's ever an issue with something, all three of us will talk about it to make sure it's being handled the right way, because eventually it falls back on Ryan.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like the tournaments and stuff, like I'm sure you've seen when you've come down, I'm always there helping him, whether it's shagging balls or making sure teams know where they're going or umpires are all set. And Dave usually umpires, so he's there too. But more or less working with the two of them, like it's Ryan I've known for a real long time. I consider him family. Dave I've known for a while because I'm umpiring and playing against him. So it's like I try to do the best I can for both of them, but it does have ups and downs. Some days you're like, you want to sit there and scream at them, and then there's some days you're joking around. It's more or less like whenever you're, it's almost in a sense like a job situation. Like you're trying to make sure all your bases are covered, but in another sense, it's like there's those days where you're like, you want to be like, screw you, I'm going home, but you can't because you got to do that part of your job, and plus they're your friends. You're going to make sure they're all set.
You don't want to leave them hanging and things like that. Yeah, we do want to get Dave Coulis back on the show. We had some scheduling issues. Much better guy than the troll that you see on Facebook.
Unless you're Jen Spielios that calls him a bum.
Yeah, every two, but she doesn't know how to spell it.
No, she doesn't.
We'll get to that.
Jen, it's B-U-M, not B-U-M-B for bum.
I saw that. I was like, I've never seen that spelled that way before. How do you think that players should interact with umpires, even if they're frustrated?
It's tough because you see a lot of the umpires we have know, I'd say 90+% of the players. So everybody knows each other. So you're going to joke around, you're going to be a little frustrated, but it's still, you're going to have that as a player-wise. The way I've always looked at it is you still got to have that respect for the umpire because they're the person that's in charge, and as an umpire, you can only take so much before, you either got to tell the player they got to leave or the coach has got to leave or whatever, So that's why I say in the umpire, it's better off to keep, quiet unless you need to be, unless you really need to speak up. And like you said, you never really heard me do it. And, maybe a couple times in Nashville because where somebody will say something or whatever, they shouldn't be saying.
The line's crossed.
Yeah. I mean, eventually if a player crosses a line, something needs to be done.
Yeah.
But I mean, as a player standpoint, you got to realize if you start chirping the umpire and everything else, eventually the umpire is going to say something, or they have the right to eject you depending on what you're saying or what you do. Because like in the past, I want to say honestly, probably in the past couple of years, I've only maybe thrown 5 or 6 people out. And it's either because you warn them so many times and you're like, you don't want to throw somebody out, unless you have to. But you can only give them so many warnings either before, you got to say, all right, enough's enough, you got to go.
No, I agree. And sometimes the one issue I have is, and I'll have beers at the field sometimes too, but you have people that they're playing, and I feel like sometimes if they weren't drinking, they probably wouldn't act sometimes the way that they do.
Yeah.
And it's just sometimes can be just this bad mix. I mean, that video that came out of Nationals that someone posted, and I forget who it was, but I think it was a league director or something that just got in this umpire's face, and I'm like, What are we doing? Isn't this supposed to be like having fun? Like that's not fun.
Well, and that's like we were saying. There's a point where you cross a line.
Yeah.
And yes, I've seen that video, and technically I'm not supposed to say much about it because I'm a director.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, the only thing really I will say is like as a player, yeah, you shouldn't do that to the umpire. But as an umpire, with me being one, should have handled it a little bit better also.
Yeah. And both are human beings, you know, and sometimes people take tempers flare, and it's hard, you know, you're not at work, you are having a recreational activity, and it gets the better of you. I mean, I didn't like it, but I'm not going to, you know, pass judgment on.
Well, and that's why I said you got to kind of treat it as a job, which if you look at it, the umpire felt the player cross the line, but he's also got to handle it better than he did also. Like I was saying, you have your balances that you got to keep track of too on both sides, like you were saying.
Yeah.
From a player standpoint and an umpire standpoint.
I mean, when I did see it, I said, at what point, like, do police have to get involved? Because it did feel like it could have got to that, and that's something you just don't want to see. What's the craziest story that you've seen while you've been umpiring? Anything like, it could be a play, it could just be an event, or, you know?
I mean, as a player-wise, just playing in a tournament where we turned a triple play.
Oh, wow.
And then umpire-wise, you give a person a warning, and then they turn around and tell you to F yourself, and they throw their bat into the woods.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, okay, have a nice night, you're all done. You know, so after you do it for so many years, you pretty much see a lot of stuff that blows your mind. It's like, why would you do something like that or say something like that? And it's like, or some of the plays you see people do, which is, you know, with the caliber of players like you've seen in Southern New Hampshire, and when you go to tournaments, you can see some amazing plays, and then you can see some disastrous plays that you're like, how did that happen? You know,
that's why softball is so much fun, though.
Yeah,
you see all types of different things. Do you have a favorite part of umpiring?
I don't know if you call it a favorite part.
Yeah.
It's, like I said, it's more or less a job. I mean, I would say probably if you got favorite part is you get to see everybody you know.
Yeah.
You know, you can socialize with them before the game or after the game, but like once you start, it's more or less, you know, it's like, all right, turn the switch.
Do it.
Yeah, flip the switch. All right, it's job time. Flip it off afterwards. You can joke around with people and, you know, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. If I ever, like, for whatever reason can't play anymore, I think I would want to do something like that, just still be around it. But I do appreciate all the umpires myself, because it's not easy. Fan question we do have from Jen Spelios. And Jen, I think I said your name right because you said it right beforehand. When is he going to kick out Dave Coolis out of UTRIP? Guys, a B-U-M-B. I think she meant bum. Jen, we're gonna have a spelling come to heart.
Spelling bee. See how she does in it.
You know, so, but yeah, can you kick Coolie out? That
would come down to Ryan.
Okay.
But I mean, you know, he's a good umpire for one. So, and he does his job. You know, so there's not, you know, he doesn't really have too many issues with people, and so it's like, how do you kick somebody out that shows up, does a good job, and is willing to help out? It's, you know, it's hard to kick somebody out when they're there.
See, the thing I like about Dave is he is a ball buster. Yeah. But I do think it's most of the time all in good fun with him. And when he is umping, it is kind of like, I think you and Dean and Coolie, the games are more fun when you guys are like the umpires. There has been other ones where you're like, yeah, this is not as fun because I feel like the umpire's trying to like take control of the game.
Yeah.
You know, so Coolie's not going anywhere, Jen. You know?
Well, that's why I said it's the umpire's better off. The less he talks, you know, the better off he is. And like I said, you can joke around a little bit, like you said. You know, the three of us or whatever, you guys in Nashville think it's fun because we're joking around a little bit. But I mean, it draws a line to where you joke around and you be serious and everything else. So
yeah, and I just want to say big shout out to John Meekins, because he actually came down to the pickup league and just he umpired for free.
Yeah,
which was really cool of him. So he's another one that I like a lot. Getting to sports. Did you see the Patriots in the position that they're in right now? And we got a big game on Monday Night Football. Who do you think wins? In Buffalo.
Did I think the Patriots would be tied for first? Honestly, probably not. I figured they'd be second or third in the division because you got to figure they're rebuilding. Yeah, they've had the defense, but when you're trying to replace running backs, quarterback, your line's been beat up for the past 2 years, your offense struggles, give them credit. They're doing a hell of a job, with where they are, especially Mac Jones being one of the top 3 quarterbacks.
Oh, man, that kid.
But, I mean, if you take away the defense that he has there too, they're only giving up, 15 points a game against some good teams. That makes a huge difference. And going against Buffalo, Buffalo's been struggling, but they're playing in Buffalo. And you figure if Buffalo gets their offense going again, they're going to be a tough team because their defense has always been good the past couple of years.
Because I think all the Patriots have to do is split. Even if they lose this week, as long as they beat them in Gillette and win out. I mean, but I'll say this. I get a text Sunday morning, 9:30. My buddy goes, hey, I have tickets on the field at Gillette. I think we were 5 rows back. I said, yep, okay, let's go. And, man, watching Mac, I'm not, because I know a lot of the comparisons are starting to happen, and I kind of don't like it. And I know he just trademarked MJ10.
Yeah.
Like a TB12 type of thing.
Oh, yeah.
But, man, he looks so good out there, and it makes me nervous. I'm like, is this going to be our quarterback for the future? I'm happy just winning the division this year.
Well,
if that happens.
If you think about it, you go back to when Brady left, they had Stedman, who came from a very good college team. Never really got a chance because they never really stuck with him. They bounced between him and Hoyer, and then
Belichick hates him. I don't know why.
Yeah, and then they brought Cam in, who was, I think, honestly terrible. And you look, he goes back to Carolina, starts screaming, I'm back. And, you're back on the bench.
Yeah, poor Cam.
So, I mean, you could see the first couple weeks, Mac Jones struggled, and now that he's kind of, I think because they have everybody healthy, you can see where he's making his passes and, working with some of the receivers and stuff like that. It makes it a little bit better. But you can also, you'll probably agree, he still has little things to work on better, when it comes to when he goes to try to run with the ball. You see a lot of times he dives head first like he did in college instead of sliding.
Can't do that here.
No, you get popped one good time, you're going to be out for a little while.
Yeah.
And it's just little things like that. You can see that, but he's a rookie, so it makes a difference. Now he's still in that college mindset of playing big time college ball. It's a little bit different, so you got to always try to figure out little things.
Crazy thing is they've been in every game except for New Orleans. Even the games they lost, they were in it. Belichick drafted a quarterback in the first round. He spent money this year. It's been a fun team to watch, and I'm hoping they keep it up.
Well, he's going to have to spend money next year to keep some of that defense, like Judon. Judon's one of the sack leaders, and he's only on a 1-year deal.
Oh, that's only a one. Oh man, because he's become one of my favorites. It's so much fun watching him.
Yes, we were talking about that at my Sunday night hockey league. They were talking about the defense, and they were talking about how Judon's a 1-year deal. So they got to figure out something to keep him around with some of the other guys.
Is it? I didn't know it was 1 year. Okay.
Yeah,
they got to keep him. He's fantastic. Who's your favorite to win the Super Bowl? Who do you think's taking it?
It's tough because you look at the NFL all this year.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
You have some very good teams that are losing to terrible teams, and some mediocre teams are beating the top teams. It's not like it was the past couple of years. Okay, you had your top teams here, your lower teams here. These teams are going to always beat them, and it's not. So it's kind of tough. It's like a toss-up because you figure in the AFC you could have, I would say the Final Four, you could have probably Buffalo and New England. Kansas City's turned it around, so they possibly
could. Looking good again.
And then I would honestly say either Vegas or the Chargers.
Yeah.
Because of the way their offenses run, depending on how they're doing. It's tough in the North in that division because Baltimore is playing better, but I don't think they get by any one of those other four. Pittsburgh, no. Cleveland, no. And then,
Pittsburgh's so bad now.
well, yeah, they've
Yeah.
struggled. Cleveland's up and down.
Yeah.
One week they'll play awesome. One week they're terrible. And then Cincinnati, they're looking better, but I still think they're a couple pieces away before they finish up there.
You know what's crazy? It's the Rams didn't win a game in November.
Yeah.
They get Odell Beckham, and it's been nothing but
Well, and you got to figure they lost Woods, and Woods and Cup were their 1-2.
yeah.
Now it's like you got Cooper Cup, and then trying to work in Odell Beckham and excuse me, a couple other guys. You know, it's tough where Stafford's just been thrown to those two 90% of the time.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, a month ago, I would have been like, they're looking good. They're the favorite. Not anymore.
No.
Do you still miss Tom Brady at all? I'm kind of over him at this point. I mean, I'll always love Tom, but
it's not one player that
yeah,
your football team wins with.
That's
That's the only hard part for me is like, yeah, you can have your favorite players. You know, like you go back to when I was a kid, my favorite goalie was Andy Moog for the Bruins.
Yeah.
Bruins never went anywhere when I was a kid. You know, you can have your favorite players as, you know, per team, but you need that whole team to win. So it's like, okay, Tom Brady's gone to Tampa. Yeah, he's doing well in Tampa. You got Mac Jones here now. The Patriots are winning. You're rooting for the Patriots, not just that one player.
no, I agree. I mean, I always root for Tom until I've been a little bitter since we lost to him. And I was like, you know what? I can't anymore. But I think what we're seeing, if the Patriots continue this, Belichick and Brady are both just very good at what they do. Just top fives. Do you have a top 5 favorite TV shows?
That's tough. So I don't really watch a lot of TV anymore.
Or all time? Or
I mean, you got to figure the top 2 probably would be ESPN or NHL Tonight.
okay.
Because that way, well, no, that way you can see like,
Yeah.
you know, NHL Tonight because I can see all the hockey updates or any games I miss. ESPN's you can catch the baseball, the football, the basketball. I mean, you'll probably laugh at it just because of my wife. I watch the Food Network.
Chopped, I'm sure.
Well, Chopped, guys' grocery games because you have guys' diners, dives, and whatever it's called. But there would be that. And then it's more or less, you know, Discovery would be one we watch a lot of now because you have Storage Wars, the Gold Rush,
Yeah.
you know, which is pretty interesting to see like how they do a lot of that and how they go around and try to find these places. Storage Wars, it's just funny. You watch people bid against
what's in it.
Yeah, see what's in it and where they bid against each other. And besides that, it's the only thing we've been watching a lot of, or I have lately, is that Northwoods Law shows.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, it's pretty interesting because they do, for this area, they cover Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, but then they have a Lone Star one which covers like all of Texas, and you know, pretty interesting to see what, you know, people where they get like the last episode we watched, they had 2 people get hurt up in Cannon Mountain.
Oh, wow.
So they were showing like how they get them out of there.
Yeah.
They had like a deer got stuck in somebody's yard, and then you had they had people fishing where they're not supposed to, and they talk about what they're supposed to do or whatever. So like some stuff it's interesting. Then there's some stuff you shake your heads like how stupid can people be?
I'll have to check that out. I did get nervous. I was going to be on Storage Wars because I have a storage unit. My debit card was compromised. They gave me a new one. I was paying my bill on auto pay.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I had an email that I never checked, and it was like, you didn't pay. And I was like, oh, God. Oh, God. All my stuff's going to be on the streets, or they're going to sell it.
Yeah.
And then, luckily, I was able to figure that out. Do you have a top 5 favorite movies? Or a favorite?
Well, I say there's sports. It'd probably be Slapshot, Youngblood, is with hockey. I always found it funny was Mr. 3000.
Oh, Bernie Mac.
Yeah.
Loved Bernie Mac.
Especially how a clerical error can screw your life up when he's lived his life thinking, okay, I hit my 3000th hit and I'm quitting baseball, and then to find out, oh, I got to go back
and do it
and try to do it again to get one more hit. So he's legit.
Tells you how much people love their stats in baseball too.
Well, it's you figure stats in anything. Like you look at Youngblood, the kid wanted to prove himself, to go somewhere and what he had to go through to do it. And then I would say like any of the Halloweens or Friday the 13th, though I always thought those were good movies.
Those are two of my favorite franchises. We've ranked both of those series on the show. Any musical artists that stick out that you're a big fan of?
I just listen to whatever. Well, you got to figure, like I said, where I drive a truck every day.
Yeah.
So I have the radio on all day. So.
Well, here's an interesting one that I want to ask you. In your opinion, top 5 softball players in New Hampshire?
I'm not getting into that. No, sorry. I'm not.
Anybody you put at the top? If you had to pick one?
It's tough because you have guys on the seacoast and guys down here, and you don't see everybody play all the time.
Yeah.
And just because they're ranked at a level doesn't always mean that they belong at that level, though.
Yeah.
So it's hard to rank like a 1 through 5 players in New Hampshire because you have some guys on the seacoast. There's a couple that I know are ranked A, and then you have some guys down here that are ranked E, but they shouldn't be ranked E. They should be up higher, and maybe a ranked A player shouldn't be an A.
The ranking system is very interesting. I mean, you have some guys you're just like, yeah. You need to. You have people that played college baseball and they're still, and then you have people that played, only to a high school level, or you have people that play softball that never got past Little League.
Yeah.
So.
But the funny part is some of those guys that never got past Little League play better than some of the guys that played college baseball because some of the guys from college baseball can't adjust the swing.
Switch it, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's why it's tough to try to go one to 5. I mean, even with teams, because you could have one team that does real well for a couple years and then they start to struggle, and maybe they don't belong at that level they were playing at 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But if they keep winning at a certain percentage, then they're going to be staying at that level, like the way the system works.
And one team, a powerhouse co-ed team, just retired. And I'm not going to say the name. It's Throw It to Third, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to say how they pronounce it on the show. Jeremy Pucko, keeping it, respectful here. Did people know that was about to happen, or did he just kind of drop that out of nowhere?
You'd have to ask him because I think what it's just been is over the years and going up and down, and then you have the players are getting older, and you get to a certain point where you're like, enough's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, going to Florida every year has got to be a lot. I can understand.
Well,
that.
and you got to figure how much it costs per tournament, and then uniforms, and then when you go to Florida, the flights, the houses, the cars, and everything. It all adds up after a while, but it gets to a point where some people are like, all right, enough's enough.
Time to move on.
Yeah, time to move on, or just play local or whatever. So.
All right, awesome. Well, I want to get into my favorite segment of the show, which is blank versus blank. I'm going to give you 2 things. You got to pick one, and you got to tell me why. If you could only watch one for the rest of your life, would it be the Boston Red Sox or the Boston Bruins?
Probably the Bruins.
Okay. Just more of a hockey guy?
Yeah. I'd say hockey comes first. If I had the choice between hockey and softball or baseball, hockey would come first.
All right, fair enough. Here's one we ask everybody, and it's a controversial one, but you got to give an answer on it. More responsible for the success of the New England Patriots in the last 20 years, Bill Belichick or Tom Brady?
Dean, I don't know how you pick one or the other because
this is why these are why the hot topic questions.
Well, the tough part is if you look at it this way, you have one quarterback that's gone, you have a new quarterback. So if you look at it like a system-wise, I would say it would have to probably be because Brady's gone and he's still putting up really good numbers, and Mac Jones is putting up numbers, but it's 2 different systems. You would almost have to say it would probably be Brady because Belichick's system is working for Mac Jones as well as it worked for Brady.
Yeah.
And if you think about before Brady, when you had Drew Bledsoe, he always had good numbers, maybe not won a Super Bowl, until Brady took over. But you look at Belichick's system, his quarterbacks have always, once they've been in it for a little bit, they've always done well. So now you have Brady in a different system with Bruce Arians, and he's still one of the top 5 quarterbacks, even though he's in his mid-40s.
Which is insane. Now, when we started we asked this question almost every show. And last year when the Patriots weren't doing too well, I don't think Cam ever fit the system. Everybody just went right to Brady. We were already like, Belichick's done. I'm like, you can't decide that after one season.
No.
What championship did you like better? The Patriots' first Super Bowl or the Red Sox first World Series?
I'd almost say probably the Patriots winning there first, because I think baseball you have more of a chance to win because you have so many games, so many, more. It's not unless more players, but you have more of a season spread out, to where football it's compacted into only 16. Well, now it's 17, but it was 16 games. And you figure if a player gets hurt in football, they're usually gone for 3, 4, 5 weeks at a time. Baseball, unless they break something, they may miss 2 or 3 games out of a 162 game schedule. So I think football it's tougher to win at than it is at baseball, because granted, like you look at the background money wise, you still see a ridiculous amount of money thrown around in football, baseball, and basketball. And like we were talking the other day, hockey is the lowest paid, money wise between those major 4. Because even you see soccer now, guys are getting ridiculous amount of money.
Wow.
If you look at some of the soccer players, they're getting ridiculous amount of money. But when you're comparing the football and the baseball, just like they were saying with Max Scherzer the other day. So he throws every pitch he throws, he's getting like $1,400 with his new deal.
Yeah.
Every inning, it's like $5,800 or whatever, or every out, it's like $5,800. So it's just like ridiculous amounts of money like that. So if that guy misses 3 or 4 games in a season, it's not a big deal. If a player in football misses 3 or 4 weeks, if they don't have somebody that steps up to take his place, that makes it a lot harder for that.
More losses and.
Well, you take, like we were saying, you take New Orleans, for example, this year. Karima, he's been out 4 weeks now. He's not playing again tonight. So that's 4 weeks.
So the Cowboys actually have a chance.
So you look at New Orleans' running game has been struggling. They picked up Mark Ingram from Houston, but he's not filling that void like what they're used to having. I mean, granted, they're struggling at quarterback too because Drew Brees isn't there anymore, but that's like a perfect example. You have a guy that's their main stable at that spot. They don't really have somebody that fills in. Now, if you compare like the Patriots this year where you had Harris got hurt, you had Stevenson step in, and you had the other – I can't think of the other rookie's name that they had doing some of the running. But then you also have Bolden.
Yeah.
So they have 4 guys that are filling that one spot, and all 4 of them are filling it equally. So if one's missing, you have 3 other guys that can step in and do the same thing.
Yeah, no, football is – I mean, because I never thought the Red Sox would actually win. I never thought the Patriots were going to win either. So,
no, especially when 6 out of what, like 9 years.
Yeah, it was absolutely insane. I think I can answer this for you, but I'm just going to ask anyways. Would you rather play U-Trip or ASA?
U-Trip.
I figure you have a big role in U-Trip. So,
it's not only that. It's like ASA. Do you look at some of the rules? It's like it doesn't make sense sometime anymore.
Can I tell you this? I don't know if I know the rules on either. I know the bats and balls are different, but that's about it.
Well, you have your pitching's different, like the first base where you have the safety bag at first for U-Trip. ASA you don't, and a couple of the other things that may make a difference. So. Yeah,
I mean, I enjoy U-Trip because the first time I started playing U-Trip and I just ripped one and put it right over the fence and was like, whoa, what just happened here, Would you rather have Bonds or McGuire?
Honestly, neither one of them, because you never know you don't know if either one of them was legit.
Yeah. I think Barry Bonds has to go in, and I'm a huge Mark McGuire fan, but Barry Bonds was great before. He didn't need to do that. That's what's so frustrating.
But you look at both of them. McGuire, when he was with Canseco, was doing real well, and then all of a sudden he got huge. And the same thing with Barry Bonds. Yeah. When he was with Pittsburgh, he did real well, and then he got huge, and then all of a sudden you see him hitting home runs left and right. Same thing with Sammy Sosa. You could see him get bigger and bigger, like size wise, and it's like, yeah, of course, when you're doing all that. And granted, yeah, they still got to have the skill to hit a 99-mile-an-hour fastball or 79-mile-an-hour curveball. That, you know what I mean? They got to have the skill, but it's like, at what point do you have to do stuff like that to overcome your skill just to have a record?
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous back then. Next three are going to be the toughest ones. Better umpire, Tank or Dean Hand?
As much as I don't want to pick, I would probably say Dean.
And Tank is the reason they call it the Bring It podcast, right?
No.
Oh, I always thought, because he always just start the games and go,
No.
bring it.
No, that was just Tank's own catchphrase.
Yeah, well, no, they took it from Tank, right?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I don't know.
I thought J.R. said that when he was on the show, but
he might have. I don't know. I didn't hear that.
Is he still?
He is an umpire now.
I don't see him on Facebook. I don't see him anywhere anymore. So, the show is a big fan of Dean Hand. So, who would you rather take? And I like to compare these two a lot: Bobby Bollier or John Nagel?
What? See who throws who under the bus for the snow blower and everything else.
It was either one or the other. I'm not sure. And we do want to say get well soon, John Nagel. He'll be coming back on the show soon. Last one, toughest one, easier to work with, Ryan Mayotte or Dave Coulis? Who would you rather work with?
I work with them both every day, so it's not.
You got to cut one.
No, I'm not picking one.
No, but anyway, Sloan, I really appreciate you coming on the show. It's been
you.
an absolute blast. We'll have to have you back sometime.
Yeah.
But everybody out there, again, keep your heads up. I know we're in tough times. If you're asked to wear a mask, just wear the mask. It's not that big a deal. But everybody have a good week. Unless your name's Soapy Preop, but also Brian Kelly, because you're just as big of a coward as Soapy Preop. So, but until next week, let freedom ring.
Don't forget Jen Spelios or spelling bee.
Yeah, and Jen learn how to spell.